Hey guys, so I have been single for almost 6 years now, and today's my birthday, and I was just thinking it would be nice to feel something. So I thought, what's the best way to do that? Get a date? Can't do that, I don't know how. Talk to someone? Don't have anyone. I haven't felt anything close to romance or, I don't know, like a hug in such a long time. So I thought, oh, maybe I could read a book or watch a romantic comedy. But what if there's something more personal about me? This is such a bad idea. I don't really like AI. I don't have an account. I don't use it. But at this point, I'm just like genuinely pathetic. So I wrote, write me a detailed love story with twists about me, Simon, 22, because today's my birthday, meeting a girl on my stay in New York. Make it intimate and nostalgic. Minimum 10 pages. Don't leave out any details. I didn't specify anything about me, about the other person, about the story at all. Nothing. Just surprise me. It even tried to ask me questions. How do you want the first encounter to be? The connection, emotional tone, twists. And I just said, surprise me. Make it how you think is the best way to do it. I'm ready for anything. I don't even care. I mean, it's not really about me because the AI, I'm on a private tab without an account. There's no way it knows me, right? It's just a random person named Simon. But I don't know. And this is it. Chapter 1, The City That Never Sleeps. Also, the video in the background is me playing Minecraft. Maybe trying to speedrun it, but also just do whatever. Yeah, so enjoy. I'm not ready for this. I'm gonna be honest. Chapter 1, The City That Never Sleeps. New York City had a pulse, and Simon could feel it in every step he took. The traffic honked like an orchestra of impatience, the lights buzzed with a kind of neon hunger, and the air was thick with the scent of street food, coffee, and ambition. He'd been here for a week, still not used to the constant noise, but he was trying to find the rhythm. It was a Sunday evening when Simon stumbled into a cafe. He'd been walking aimlessly, just letting his feet take him wherever the city felt like pulling him. The cafe wasn't flashy. It didn't have the crisp aesthetics of a curated Instagram feed. Instead, it was old and quiet, tucked away in a narrow street off Soho, with mismatched chairs and the hum of old jazz floating in the background. It was the kind of place where people wrote, read, or just existed. Simon ordered a black coffee, nothing special, and sat down by the window watching the rain start to fall in soft sheets. Then he saw her. Oh, hell no. She wasn't the kind of person you'd expect to notice in a crowd, but there was something magnetic about her. She was sitting at a table by the corner, her laptop open in front of her, headphones on, lost in the screen. Her long dark hair fell in soft waves around her face, and even though she was completely immersed in whatever she was doing, there was an air of familiarity about her. Alyssa, page 1 done. Yo, I don't know what to think about this. I'm kind of hooked, but it's also just weird. Alyssa. He had seen her name before on Twitch. What? What the fuck? He'd watched her streams a couple of times while bored at home. What is this storyline? Why does it give me this? What the? Anyway, I guess it kind of makes sense. Like, I'm in the same area. Alyssa. He had seen her name before on Twitch. He'd watched her streams a couple of times while bored at home. She was a popular streamer, one of those who effortlessly blended gaming, chatting, and a touch of sarcasm with a community that adored her. But there was something different about seeing her here, in person, in this quiet little cafe in New York. She was no longer just a voice in his headphones or a face on a screen. She was real. Bro, really? Come on. The strangest thing happened then. The urge to approach her wasn't a casual thought. It felt like it came from somewhere deeper, almost magnetic. But of course, he couldn't. Ah, of course. That does sound like me. What the? What? How does it kind of know me, Loki? I don't like this. He was just a random guy. Just another face in the crowd. And what would he even say? A few moments passed. He checked his phone, trying to distract himself, but his eyes kept drifting back to her. Not the phone. Come on. There was something peaceful about her. even though she was probably in the middle of responding to a dozen comments from her chat, her fingers flying over the keyboard with practiced ease. Then, almost as if the universe was pushing him, she looked up, catching his gaze for a brief moment. For a second, there was a flicker of recognition in her eyes, but then she quickly looked away, returning to her laptop. Maybe she hadn't actually noticed him. Maybe he had imagined it. This is making me look like a weird stalker who's like imagining things. This is not fun. It's kind of good though. It's so cringe and bad that it's kind of good, and I'm like, I can't stop reading. But the pull didn't fade. It was still there, gentle but insistent. Before he could talk himself out of it, Simon stood up and walked towards her. His heart hammered in his chest, the sudden surge of nerves making him second-guess everything. As he approached, she glanced up again, this time with a curious smile. "Hey, I... ... I know you from Twitch," Simon stammered, cursing himself internally. He had a moment to sound cool, casual. Instead, he felt like an awkward mess. Her eyes widened in recognition. Wait, really? Alyssa's voice was warm, the kind that had made so many people fall in love with her streams. That's wild. I don't meet many people who know me outside of the screen. Yeah, because they probably don't go outside. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I've watched your streams a couple of times. Simon, he added, extending his hand. I'm so cringe in this. Why is this character... That's not me. That's just Simon. Alyssa smiled, shaking his hand lightly. "Nice to meet you, Simon. You're not like the rest of my followers, are you?" She winked, clearly joking, but the comment made Simon laugh. "I'm hoping not," he said, his smile finding its way back. There was a brief moment of silence, and Simon hesitated. Should he leave her to her work? Or... ... question mark. "Are you on a break or something?" he asked, his voice a little softer now. Alyssa seemed to consider him for a moment before nodding. "Yeah, kind of. I'm trying to finish some work stuff before I go live later, but it's nice to take a breather." They both stood there awkwardly for a second, unsure of how to transition into a real conversation. Valid. Simon could feel the weight of his nerves, but something about the easy way she had smiled at him made it all feel a little more manageable. "Do you come here often?" he asked, trying to keep it casual, leaning against the table she was sitting at. How was I? Was I like my hip? Or was I like leaning on the table, like just laying on the table? No, you know what? I think she was sitting at one of those tables when in a coffee shop they're by the window and it's like just a plank of wood, pretty high, and there's like bar stools or bar chairs and you're just sitting, just high in the air. So maybe he's leaning against that table, just kind of, Yeah, actually that kind of makes sense. "Do you come here often?" "More than I should," she chuckled, "but it's quieter than any other spots in the city. I can actually think here." "Fair enough," said Simon. "I kind of get it. I've been here for a week and I'm still trying to figure out if I love it or if it's driving me crazy." Alyssa tilted her head, intrigued. "What's driving you crazy about it?" "The noise, the people, the fact that I can't go 5 steps without hearing someone shout into a phone. It's like this constant energy I'm just not used to," Simon admitted. "Yeah, it's definitely overwhelming, but you get used to it. At some point, you stop hearing the noise and start hearing the stories. You'll see it all around you," she said, her gaze drifting outside to the rain-soaked streets. There was something wistful about the way she said it. Simon wasn't sure what to say to that, but it didn't feel like an uncomfortable silence, just a pause in the flow of the conversation, like two people letting the world move around them for a moment. "So," Alyssa broke the silence, her eyes locking with his again. "What's your deal, Simon? Are you just visiting, or..." It was an innocent enough question, but for some reason it felt deeper. He couldn't shake the feeling that, somehow, this conversation, this moment, was a pivot in a story that hadn't even begun yet. "I'm here for work, actually. I'm a freelancer. Thought I'd take a bit of time to explore the city." What does that mean, though, freelancer? That could be anything. It kind of works with me, because, I do video editing and stuff, so, why is it Loki getting some stuff right? Like, most of the things. What the hell? "Freelancer, huh?" She leaned back, amused. "Sounds like the dream." Yeah. Simon smiled, nodding. "In some ways, you can go wherever, do whatever, but there's a lot of quiet too. Sometimes, I think I'm just running away from something, trying to find it in the noise." Alyssa seemed to consider his words for a second. Her gaze softened, And for a moment, Simon wasn't sure if she was reading him in a way that felt too personal or if it was just the nature of the city to make everyone feel like they were searching for something. But before either of them could respond, her phone buzzed. Oh, hell no. Classic. Not the phone. Her phone buzzed. She checked it, her face lighting up in an instant. Sorry, she said quickly, picking it up. I've got to hop on a call for a bit, but it was really cool meeting you, Simon. I don't usually talk to people like this. Simon nodded, his heart sinking a little. Facts. He had hoped for more time, more conversation. But at the same time, something about this moment felt... right. Like the beginning of something, maybe. And sometimes, beginnings were quiet. Yeah, he said, smiling. It was great. Maybe I'll catch your stream later. Maybe, Alyssa grinned. Who knows what will happen after the rain stops, right? What does that mean? And with that, she was gone, her attention back on her phone, and Simon was left standing there, unsure of where to go or what to do next. Classic me. But something told him he wasn't finished with this city yet, and maybe, just maybe, New York had one more surprise in store for him. Chapter 1 done. It's bad. But it's that kind of a bad where you can't stop reading. So, Chapter 2. The Digital Bridge. The rain didn't let up for hours, and the city outside blurred into a canvas of droplets and streetlights. Simon stood there for a while, staring out at the neon glow, unsure if he should stay or just leave. Something about the encounter with Alyssa felt like a dream he didn't want to wake up from, but what was he supposed to do with it? He walked back to his hotel later that evening, trying to shake the lingering feeling of her smile. The city, now less chaotic with the evening crowd thinning out, seemed almost too quiet. The bustling city that had been overwhelming now felt like an empty stage, and he, the solitary actor left behind. He thought about her, Alyssa, about how her energy had felt different in person. On stream, she had always been full of sharp, witty remarks, laughter, and an effortless charm. But here, she'd be more grounded, contemplative even. He didn't expect that. But maybe it was just the moment, or maybe it was the city doing its thing, making everything feel larger than life. Back at his hotel, Simon debated whether to check her stream or just let the evening pass without further thought. In the end, curiosity won out. He opened Twitch on his laptop. This is just an ad for Twitch. He opened Twitch on his laptop, seeing that Alyssa was live. The thumbnail showed her smiling into the camera, a headset perched atop her head. He clicked in, instantly greeted by her voice. Alright, let's see if we can beat this boss today, shall we? She said, her usual upbeat tone filling the airwaves. Her eyes flitted to the chat, her fingers moving over the keyboard with practiced ease, responding to viewers. But Simon couldn't shake the feeling that he knew her better than just the persona on screen now. She wasn't just a character to watch anymore. Chapter 3. The Digital Bridge continued. Simon sat back, listening to Alyssa's voice wash over him, mingling with the clicks of her controller and the rapid-fire responses to her fans. He was struck by how natural she seemed in her element. It was a side of her he hadn't seen in person, this effortless command of her space, the way she became a conduit for the energy of her viewers, and how that energy, in turn, seemed to fuel her. Alyssa's eyes caught the camera for a split second, and her smile softened, almost as if she were seeing a familiar face in the crowd. Hey Simon, she said. What the fuck? How does she know? Hey Simon, she said, her voice cutting through the chat as though they were still in that little cafe. The words felt oddly personal, like a quiet acknowledgement amidst a sea of anonymous usernames. You know what this feels like? This is Wattpad. This is literally... Oh, hell no. Simon's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't expected to be noticed in the sea of comments. He typed quickly, not sure what to say, but wanting to respond somehow. Simon, still trying to figure out this city. What's your take on it? The message sent, and a few seconds passed before her eyes scanned the screen, locking onto his name. She read it aloud to the audience, her usual cool confidence evident, but Simon swore he could hear a hint of something softer in her voice. Ah, the eternal New York question, Alyssa said, chuckling. It's like a riddle. It's loud and crazy, but if you let it in, it changes you. That's what I think, anyway. She glanced off screen as if lost in thought for a second before looking back at the chat. But you'll find your own answers. Everyone does. The conversation felt intimate, as though she were speaking to him directly, even though thousands of people were watching. Simon watched, mesmerized, as her eyes sparkled with that energy. Playful, thoughtful, and effortlessly. Why is everything effortless? And effortlessly captivating. She looked back at her screen and began to play, her laughter ringing out as she easily beat the boss on her game. His phone buzzed. A message from Alyssa. I'll be on a break soon if you want to meet up again. No rush though. You know where to find me. Simon stared. Wait. How did I give her my number, or how did she send me a message? Well, I guess they just exchanged numbers. Simon stared at the message, trying to process it. The words were casual, but the intent behind them, he could feel it. The boundaries between the screen and reality were starting to blur in a way that made him nervous and excited all at once. That's the end of chapter 3. Chapter 4. The second encounter. The next day, Simon couldn't shake the thought of Alyssa, her message lingering in his mind. He had gone into the city to see some of the touristy spots, a few art galleries, a walk through Central Park, but he was distracted. Every time he glanced at his phone, he found himself hoping there'd be a message from her. But there was nothing. He couldn't tell if it was just the casual nature of the exchange, or if he was reading into it too much. That would be me. Either way, he felt a strange pull to go back to the cafe where they had first met. By late afternoon, as the rain began to drizzle again, Simon found himself back on the same street. The cafe was still as quiet and warm as it had been, almost like a little sanctuary away from the noise of the city. This time, he was determined not to second-guess himself. He ordered a coffee and sat by the window, his gaze flickering to the door every few seconds. Then, just as he was about to lose hope, the door opened. There she was, Alyssa, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing a soft hoodie and ripped jeans. I always hate this in books, when they describe the characters so much. I want to imagine everything. Like, don't even tell me the hair color. Nothing. I have my own characters. Like, the first line of the book, the first page, I have exactly how the character looks like. Like, I hate when they tell me in the middle of the book, oh, by the way, she has curly hair so long that it goes down to her knees, and she's only wearing leather jeans. What? Leather pants. And I'm just like, what? I imagined like a short, blonde bob, like 2014 Taylor Swift or something. Why are you telling me this? What? And I also can't imagine faces. Or, I mean, I can. I don't want to. I just, for some reason, every time I'm reading a book or a story, or anytime I'm writing anything, I wrote a few TV show scripts and stuff, I just imagine a blank face every time, like just a soft blank face. Even if I go on Pinterest and I look up one of those just outfit photos or whatever with like the city in the background, the skyline, the ones that I like the most is when the person is turned away from me. So it's like just the back of their head or like the side, and you can't see it. It's just like, it's just more powerful, or there's just something about it. I mean, you just have to use your imagination, and there's something nice about that. It's just comforting in a way. Yeah, anyway, sorry. There she was, Alyssa, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing a soft hoodie and ripped jeans, as casual as ever. She glanced around the cafe, eyes landing on him almost instantly. Simon, she said, her voice carrying a quiet excitement. I figured I'd find you here. Simon stood, a grin spreading across his face. I was hoping you would. Alyssa sat down across from him without a second thought, dropping her bag onto the seat beside her. She looked around the cafe with a sense of ease, almost like it had become her second home. Her eyes lingered on the rain, watching the water streak down the windows in slow, quiet patterns. Have you been here before? She asked, her fingers absent-mindedly tapping the rim of her coffee cup. Simon nodded. Yeah, just once. But it's the only place that feels right, you know? She smiled softly. I get that. This city can be overwhelming, but if you find the right spot, it starts to feel like home. They talked for a while, slipping into an easy rhythm that Simon hadn't expected. The conversation flowed as naturally as if they'd known each other for years, even though it had only been a few days, like 3, since their first encounter. He told her more about why he was in New York, about his work as a freelancer, and how he'd always wanted to escape to the city but never knew if he was ready. She shared a little about her life, how her streaming had started as a way to pass time after moving to the city, and how the community she built online had become both her sanctuary and her stage. It was clear to Simon that the life she led was a mix of both wonder and exhaustion, always on, always connected. But she didn't seem to mind. The fire in her eyes told him that she was where she belonged. Do you ever feel Sorry. Do you ever feel like the person you are on stream is different from the person you are off it? Simon asked, almost shyly. Alyssa paused, as if the question had caught her off guard. She bit her lip thoughtfully before answering. Yeah, sometimes. There's this part of me that feels more alive when I'm on stream. It's like I get to be more myself, louder, more confident. But it's also a performance, you know? I can only show them the version of me that's fun to watch. I get it, said Simon. I think I'm the opposite. When I'm working, I'm alone most of the time, just in my head. True. It's hard to show people who you really are when you're so caught up in your own thoughts. Alyssa looked at him with a small smile, understanding more than he expected. I think that's why I like talking to you. You're not just the guy who knows me from my streams. You're someone who gets it, even without the audience. The words hit Simon like a wave, his heart swelling with something he hadn't quite put into words. He didn't want to be just another fan or someone she could talk to in passing. He wanted to know her, really know her. Before he could respond, Alyssa's phone buzzed, interrupting the moment. She glanced at it, sighed, and apologized. Sorry, I've gotta go. I promised a friend I'd meet them for dinner. She stood up, smiling softly. But you know, it was nice. This, you and me. 'Cause you and Sorry, I can't help myself. You and me, just talking like people. Simon nodded, standing as well. Yeah, it was nice. I'm glad you came. Alyssa gave him a teasing grin. Who knows? Maybe I'll drag you into one of my streams one day. You'll be my quote-unquote secret guest, or something. Simon laughed, his heart beating a little faster. I'd like that, I think. As she turned to leave, Simon couldn't help but feel like this was only the beginning of something. New York, with its noise and chaos, had already drawn them together. But there was still so many moments left to be shared, so many stories to be written. And he couldn't help but wonder just how much of his story had already been written in the brief moments they'd shared. The rain hadn't stopped, but somehow, the city didn't feel so overwhelming anymore. Not with her in it. Chapter 4 complete. Chapter 5 is actually not here because the AI just didn't write it, but I'm gonna tell it to. Why am I genuinely hooked? Like, I want to know what happens. Failed to generate. To continue this story in ChatGPT Canvas, you'll need to be logged in. Oh, hell no. Chapter 5, Beneath the Surface. Oh, damn. What does that mean? The city outside had quieted for a moment. A lull between storms. A lull between... What the a lull? What is a lull? Simon woke that morning feeling something unfamiliar. A mix of excitement and apprehension tangled together like strings of a well-worn guitar. He wasn't sure if it was the coffee or the memory of Alyssa's smiles that stirred him, but it was impossible to ignore. He stepped into the crisp autumn air. Oh my god, it's autumn. It's literally perfect. He stepped out into the crisp autumn air, the kind that made the city smell like possibility. His plan was to explore West Village, but halfway there, his thoughts kept drifting back to the night before. To Alyssa's soft laugh, the way her eyes seemed to hold stories she wasn't ready to tell. By late afternoon, the city was Don't tell me he's gonna go back to the coffee shop. Please. By late afternoon, the city was bathed in golden light. Simon found himself back near the cafe. The one that felt like a secret oasis amid the noise. This time, he lingered outside, hesitant. What was he even hoping for? Another casual conversation? A glimpse behind the screen persona? The door swung open and there she was. Alyssa. But not quite the same. Gone was the easy smile, replaced by a flicker of tension in her eyes. She glanced around quickly, almost searching, before her gaze settled on Simon. Hey, she said quietly, slipping inside. She motioned for him to follow. The cafe was empty, except for a few regulars quietly typing away on laptops. Alyssa led him to a small corner booth, her fingers tapping nervously on the worn wooden table. I'm sorry for disappearing yesterday, she started, voice low. There is something I didn't tell you. Oh, there's something she didn't tell me. What could that be? Simon leaned in, suddenly aware of how close they were. Oh shit. How the light caught the edges of her face in a way that made everything else fade out. What is it? He asked gently. Alyssa hesitated. Then, as if the weight was too much to carry alone, she confessed. I'm not just streaming to pass the time or for fun. There's a reason I'm here in New York. Why I keep the camera on, even when it's exhausting. Simon felt a strange mix of curiosity and concern. What do you mean? She swallowed hard. There is someone... ... Someone from my past. Someone I'm trying to outrun but also confront. Streaming keeps me connected, but it also keeps me visible. Sometimes, I don't know if that's a curse or a blessing. The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken fears. Simon reached out, covering her hand with his. You don't have to run alone. For a moment, Alyssa looked like she might pull away, but instead, she squeezed his hand back. They sat in silence. I'm like leaning in. I'm hooked in the story. Give me more. They sat in silence, the city humming beyond the window, the air thick with tension and the fragile promise of trust. In that quiet booth, two strangers became something more. Two souls tangled in the messy, beautiful uncertainty of new love. Yo, pause. I want more, but I'm not just gonna read this by myself because that's too embarrassing. I need you with me. Let me know if you want more. Goodbye. By the way, it's 3:30 a.m. right now, but it's my birthday. I'm feeling 22. Okay, bye.